Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today live to talk about an exciting new single board computer that has come out, the NVIDIA Jetson Nano 2G. Let's give people a couple of seconds to tune in. It looks like we've got some people coming online here. Want to say welcome to Altaf, to Steve Garrison, David Conley, Motion Tech, Shardul Jerku, Steve, we've got Tag Will Beat You, welcome Ohio Tech Teen, Attache Jane, Manuel Fuentes. Wow, we got quite a crowd coming in. Welcome guys. I hope that you are as excited about this live stream as I am. Been a little while since we've had a live stream, and so it is great to get back together with you guys. I will need you to go ahead and pour yourself a nice big mug of iced coffee if you haven't yet. That would be strong black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweetness, no anything. And I'll need you to get ready to learn some cool new stuff. I will be coming to you today from Silicon Mountain. Okay, this is my Silicon Mountain. What is Silicon Mountain? Silicon Mountain is the pile of single board computers that I have on my bench top. How many of you guys have your own Silicon Mountain? And the issue is there are way more boards in Silicon Mountain than we're ever really going to use, and more than we're ever really going to get good at, because you guys are kind of suckers about every new silicon board computer running out and buying it and then just kind of throwing it in the pile and never using it. So what we're going to talk about today is the kind of theme of our live stream is I'd like to unbox the new Jetson Nano 2GB developer kit, and then kind of talk about how it fits into Silicon Mountain. Is it going to be one of the single board computers that becomes one that we actually use and learn, and for me that I teach from, or is it going to just be another one that's thrown on there and never used? And so that's kind of what we are going to be looking at today. Let me check in on the chat line, see what you guys are saying. Okay, it looks like we got a lot of people. Oh, okay, Athrian says he has a Silicon Mountain. Okay, so we got some people saying that they have a Silicon Mountain. I'm not the only one. Oh yeah, Subhojit Bose, you see the ESP32. Yes, we've got the little, I think this is the Adafruit Huza ESP32. Here's one that is out of the board. Yes, that is one that ended up on Silicon Mountain, and I never really did very much with this. Okay, you guys are kind of oh, Attache says, I'm the coolest grandpa ever. I'll take that as a compliment. You guys, I don't mind being called grandpa. My friends in Africa, they all call me Papa. I like that too. Don't call me boomer. It will get you banned from the channel because that term is not very respectful. Grandpa, I'll be your grandpa. I'll be your papa. Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, Steve Garrison has a silicon graveyard. Okay. Steve Garrison has a silicon graveyard. Well, Silicon Mountain really is kind of a silicon graveyard. And so the sort of question that we're going to be looking at is that how do we make sense of Silicon Mountain? Because, you guys as learners and me as a teacher, I only have so much time and so many resources, so there's only so many things that I can teach you, and I got to kind of pick carefully among all these different boards what I try to go out and put together a tutorial series on. And you're probably the same way. You got to kind of think about that when you're going to learn something, because it's better for us to be really good at something than just kind of dabbling with a whole bunch of different stuff. But I digress. Should we go ahead and open this thing up? Hey, look, it's having the green screen thing, so it's the invisible box, but we will go ahead and open it up. I'm going to have to fool with this a little bit, see if maybe, oh, look, there over on the side of Silicon Mountain, we see that we have our old friend, the Jetson Xavier NX, and that's one that we actually use. Like, remember, I don't know if you guys have watched, just kind of look at the little camera there, and you see that camera tracks a blue pin. Come back down here. Okay. that camera tracks a blue pen, and then this other camera likes to track the pink pen. So those things are actually live and running. So yeah, Jetson Xavier NX is one of the boards I really like. But I digress. We're here today to talk about the new Jetson Nano 2GB developer kit. So we'll come over here. We'll see if we can get a view of this. I don't have like a really fancy overhead camera, so let me see if I can get out of your way a little more. But we'll just see if we can kind of wing it here. And I've got my trusty X-Acto knife razor blade. I know you guys just tune in hoping that I'll slice an artery with this thing on live YouTube, but I will try to be careful and not injure myself as we open this up. Okay, there we go. And we will bring it out, and look at this. There it is. Okay, looking good. Okay, so I will take it out. And now that is about all of the unboxing that you're going to get. And so I will come back over here. And there it is. Let's open it up and take a look at it. Okay. And what you can see is it looks a whole lot like your old friend, the Jetson Nano, the original Jetson Nano. Now, I guess I'm losing single board computers here off of Silicon Mountain, and they're falling down into silicon floor, where I have a bunch of stuff too. Okay, so what is the big deal? Like, if I were really just to kind of sum up the Jetson Nano NX, or the Jetson Nano, the original Jetson Nano versus the Jetson Nano NG, what is the big deal? The big deal is that the Jetson Nano 2G is $59, okay, to where the typical original Jetson Nano was $99. Now, I've got like almost 170,000 subscribers now on this channel, and so I've got, I think at this point, many tens of thousands of people that have gone through my Jetson Nano lessons on how to learn the Jetson, or how to learn artificial intelligence on the Jetson Nano. A lot of you guys have been through that series, but I also know for a lot of you guys, $99 has been a barrier, that you would love to learn artificial intelligence, but the $99 price tag has been kind of a barrier, because there's a lot of people, whether it's in the West or in the third world, that, that is a pretty big price. And so I know that a lot of you guys have been following along on my artificial intelligence lessons, even though they are intended for the Jetson Nano. You've been doing them on a Raspberry Pi. And I think on the Jetson Nano lessons, we've got like 62 lessons. And you can make it through a fair portion of them using a Raspberry Pi. And so I know you guys, let me see if I can get down to the Raspberry Pi here. Got to kind of collapse. Here's a Raspberry Pi 4. And I know a lot of you guys have been doing my artificial intelligence lessons using a Raspberry Pi 4 instead of the Jetson Nano. But let's come over here and let's look up this Raspberry Pi 4. A Raspberry Pi 4 2 gigabyte model is $46. It looks like $47 on Amazon. You can't see that, can you? You cannot see that. Let me get you over there. Okay, I think that you can almost see that. I'm sorry, I didn't have this shot set up very well. Okay, so you can see that on Amazon you can get a Raspberry Pi 4 2 gigabyte for, it looks like $47, and that's just kind of the bare board. And so if you compare $47 for a Raspberry Pi 4 and you compare that to $59 for the Jetson Nano 2G, you're basically getting 128 core GPU for $13. Okay, because if you look at it, if you compare the Raspberry Pi 4 to the Jetson Nano 2GB, the performance and the features are pretty similar on the two of them as far as just the CPU goes, but on the difference is the big difference between the two is the Jetson Nano has the 128 core GPU in addition to the CPU. And if you look at how close in price these two things are, I'm going to kind of say at this point that, man, I think almost anybody could afford to go ahead and move up to the Jetson Nano 2G. And that's why I kind of labeled this that it's really, I think at this point, time to kiss the pie goodbye, because I really think that almost anyone could be able to shell out an extra $13 to get that GPU. Now, you guys that have been following my lessons using a Raspberry Pi 4, you get through a good portion of them. You can kind of sort of learn OpenCV, and you can grab a frame, show a frame, do all that sort of stuff. Maybe do some contours and some simple color tracking and things like that. But when you get into doing facial recognition, or you get into actually doing the image recognition or image identification, if you're doing it on a Raspberry Pi 4, you're going to really quickly get down to about 1 frame per second, or maybe 2 or 3 seconds per frame. And so, yeah, you can kind of learn the artificial intelligence, but the performance becomes so sluggish that it really becomes kind of not very much fun. Also, the thing that I would say is what you guys recognize is let's get back over here, point back over here to our Silicon Mountain. Our Silicon Mountain kind of got kind of pushed over. We actually tried to kind of build a supercomputer with Raspberry Pis, but you can see we stacked a dozen of them together to try to build a supercomputer with a Raspberry Pi. But even with that stack of them, it's not going to have the processing power of the Jetson Nano. Okay, so let's see here. The other thing that I think I wanted to point out was that what you guys all know is the price that you really are dealing with is not just the price of the Raspberry Pi. You've got to go in and you've got to get the cables and the connectors and the power supplies and all of that. So pretty much you're not going to get a Raspberry Pi up and running for $47. Similarly, you're not going to get the Jetson Nano up and running for $59. My point being, like, let's look at let me come back over here. Let's see on Amazon what a Raspberry Pi 4, like just say complete kit, goes for. You can see that a Raspberry Pi 4 4GB starter kit, it looks like you can get it for about $100. And so by the time you add all the stuff that you need, really you're not even looking at $46 versus $59. You're probably looking at $100 versus, $110, $113, something like that. And so really the price difference between the Raspberry Pi and the Jetson Nano now, I think, becomes almost irrelevant. Okay, I think it becomes almost irrelevant. So let me switch back over here. Again, I'm a one-man show and have to be doing these shots myself. So we'll come back over here and look down at our collapsing Silicon Mountain of all these different single board computers. And let me come over and let me kind of get in the chat room. Let me get over here in the chat room and see what you guys are talking about. Hey, we've got 166 people. Wow, that is absolutely great. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Han says that he loves the Pi. I'll tell you, I have done a lot of work with the Pi, but I wouldn't say that I really love it. I really love the Arduino. And the reason I love the Arduino is that it is so bulletproof. It is so rock solid. You connect power up to it and it runs. Okay. When I've had to go beyond the Arduino and go to the Raspberry Pi, I kind of struggle with the Raspberry Pi. Like if I'm using it in a real embedded application, I always run into problems with, like, if it's battery operated and the battery runs down and therefore you bring the operating system down without doing a shutdown. I have a lot of issues with the SD card becoming corrupt. And so I've just not had the luck of embedding a Raspberry Pi the way I have with a Arduino. So I've done a lot of work with the Raspberry Pi, but I will have to say that I have never loved it. Okay. Yes, Shrieker, this does have a GPU. Not sure that's what you pay on official Raspberry Pi shops. Okay, so some people are questioning what the Raspberry Pi really costs. Well, I've usually found that the prices on Amazon are pretty fair, and a lot of people just order from Amazon because you kind of already have your account set up, and people just hop over there and order it. Yeah, okay, let's see what else we've got. Looking at some more. Thanks for the videos. Treat the Pi as a woman with love. Okay, Raspberry Pi needs strong Python language. Yes, okay. I only use the Pi to control my 3D printer these days. Okay, that sort of makes sense. What do I see as a good use for the Pi? It seems like the kind of two directions that the Raspberry Pi really maybe seems to be appropriate for what a lot of people are doing, like a media center where you're like streaming media in your home, or you're using it as like a network storage device. And so you're kind of using it on the network at home for either maybe streaming media or for a network storage device. Also, I know a lot of people use it for retro gaming, like going back to the arcade style games. I know a lot of people have used it for that. Okay, but those are not things I'm really into, and so maybe that's why I have not, maybe that's why I've not gotten so excited about the Raspberry Pi. What I love, I mean, what really got me into the Jetson Nano and the NVIDIA series of boards was just its ability to do real artificial intelligence. Now, you can do artificial intelligence on your desktop, like maybe if you have a good graphics card, a good GPU on your desktop computer, you could learn artificial intelligence there. But the problem to me about that is it's just kind of abstract. You're just sort of learning it in the abstract sense. The thing I love about the NVIDIA products is it has those GPIO pins. And so you cannot just observe the real world, you can interact with it. Kind of like I was showing down in this little demo here with the let me switch over to that view. What I'm doing here on my Xavier, and what I'm showing here with the Xavier, this would also run on the Jetson Nano, or it would run on the new Jetson Nano NX. But you see, basically I've trained the system to look for a pink pin, and then wherever the pink pin moves, the camera tracks it and puts the pink pin in the middle of the screen. The other camera is tracking a blue pin, so one camera is tracking a pink pin, and the other camera is tracking a blue pin. So I'm doing that. And my cameras are running into Silicon Mountain, and so that is not good. I got to kind of move that out of the way. But you can see this is just kind of a cool little artificial intelligence demo that I am doing here on the Jetson Xavier. This would run fine. This would run fine as well on the Jetson Nano and the Jetson Nano 2G. Okay, so let's see where we are here. What I think I would like to do, let's see, Jeff has a question. One question: I have been watching your videos and choose to buy a Nano a year ago and play around with it for machine learning, as I heard it was good with that. Is it worth designing neural networks from scratch with the Jetson Nano? That's a really, really good question. And I'll answer it two ways. If you need a neural network, the best thing to do is go get one of the standard neural networks and then retrain it for your application. So you're starting with something that has had millions of hours of investment in, and then you're tweaking it for your particular needs. And so sort of like retraining one of the existing neural networks is really kind of the direction you would need to go. But then on the other hand, what I would say is at some point we need people that really understand machine learning and really understand deep neural networks. And so training one from scratch, even though it's not going to be as good as starting with a really, really mature one and retraining it. You start really understanding how deep neural networks work. You really start understanding machine learning. So one of the things I'd really like to do is I'd really like to do a series of tutorials on PyTorch where we just go in and start really learning artificial intelligence using a standard package like PyTorch. So that's something that I would like to do. This is the danger you're always in on these single board computers or in computer science or artificial intelligence in general. To what extent do you really know what's going on versus to what extent are you just using libraries without really fully understanding them? So I always encourage people to kind of dig a little deeper and really try to understand what is going on. Okay, that was a great question. Let's see if we got a couple of other questions. What's the original development reason for my mini computers? The PI was built for teaching kids at school. The Jetson seems to feed a very different group. Okay, that's kind of a hard question because mini computers is a very kind of generic term, and computers evolved over the years from starting with the old systems that were based on vacuum tubes to then building them with discrete transistors to then building them using integrated circuits, and then more and more transistors on the integrated circuit, and then more cores. And so it's just sort of been this constant evolution, and there hasn't really been huge discrete steps or advances. It's just been sort of a complete evolution since way back in, I guess the first integrated circuit was probably back in the mid-70s, and it's just been a constant evolution since then. Okay, so those are some good questions. Okay, getting a lot of good questions. Let's come back over here to Silicon Mountain, and let's see if we can maybe just talk a little bit about like how I view this landscape of single board computers. And out of this huge stack of things, sort of like what do I see that I really am interested in, or I really want, or I really want to do? I guess the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the Arduino Nano. And we all love the Nano, and I really think the Nano should be part of any active workbench, like not in your scrapyard, but in things that you really do, because the truth is a whole lot of stuff can be done with the Nano. And if you can do it with the Nano, do it with the Nano. It's really low cost. It's really rock solid. It's just a lot of great reasons to use the Nano. There's an incredible amount of infrastructure out there as far as libraries, hardware, and software that can be hooked up to the Arduino. And so the Arduino is kind of like my core go-to board. But I will say, if you look over here, there is a huge number of different Arduinos in different configurations and stuff. And this is the old standby kind of the Arduino Uno. But really, I want to down select to just one Arduino. And so what I really like to do is I like to use the Arduino Nano. And the reason that I like the Arduino Nano is that it is smaller, and also it is more natural. If you want to just put it in a breadboard, it pops right in, and you can use neat jumper wires, and so you can get something a little bit more of a prototype from just a complete benchtop demo. And so because this has the male pins, it's easier to plug into a PC board and a breadboard, and then you can very easily go the next step, which is to design your own little green PC board where the thing is soldered in. And so I'm going to kind of like between the Arduino Uno and the Arduino Mega and the Teensy and all the different options, I am going to keep in my active single board computer. I am going to keep the Arduino Nano, and that's going to be my kind of go-to Arduino. Now I will say these little things are not very happy. Let me see if I can get them to stabilize a little bit. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, so then what do you do when things don't work on the Arduino? You need a little more power on the Arduino. it seems like a next step, a next logical step would kind of be the ESP32 platform. But I'll be honest with you, I've always, and I'll be honest with you, the number one requested single board computer that I get from people requesting me to do a tutorial series is the ESP32 board. And I've set out to do that on several occasions, but always when I've tried to do it, I ended up just stopping and getting stomped and just putting it to the side. And this is the challenge. The ESP32 is an incredibly powerful, incredibly low cost, incredibly feature rich piece of hardware. It's very, very impressive. But this is the problem that I have with it. There are many different ESP platforms as far as the hardware goes, and each one of them is a little bit different. Okay, each one of them is a little bit different. And then there are different ways that you can implement the software. There seems to be one group of people who want to like emulate the Arduino so that you sort of use the Arduino IDE, and then it becomes very similar to program. But the problem is then when you start trying to use the libraries, not all of those Arduino libraries will run on the ESP32. Then another group of people are kind of using MicroPython. Okay, and MicroPython is like a scaled down version of Python, like a simplified version of Python that will run on the hardware. So MicroPython, and then other people are using CircuitPython. And CircuitPython is different a little bit from MicroPython, which is different from the Arduino. And so when I look at it, there are huge numbers of different hardware platforms, and then there's different software strategies. And because it is so diffuse, there's no real momentum developing behind like this hardware board and this software approach, and then start getting all the libraries and the wonderful things developing around them. And so that's one reason I haven't done it. And then another reason that I haven't done it is that a lot of times you're using this for like IoT or Internet of Things. And if you're going to do that really quickly, you need this talking to something over Wi-Fi. And then that gets into what kind of network are you connecting to? And there's sort of like an infinite number of different home networks that you might have, and an infinite number of different routers that you might have. So I can't sit down and give you a step-by-step that would work for everyone like I could on the Arduino, or like I did on the Raspberry Pi, or like I did on the Jetson, the Jetson Nano and Jetson Xavier. I just couldn't figure out how to teach this to you so I could have a simple, straightforward set of lessons that I could take a beginner and then get them to the point that they could do something interesting. So I know I'm going to make a lot of people mad, but I am throwing the ESP32 back in the boneyard. Okay, it is going back on Silicon Mountain. Now the question is, at this point, the next logical step that we would go to would be like the Raspberry Pi. But again, the Raspberry Pi 3 or the Raspberry Pi 4, it's like I don't need to make a Raspberry Pi my desktop, because even though this is a really slick, cool little box here, cool little unit, by the time you hook all the cables and the power supply, then you just got a big mess on your desktop. And at that point, you might as well just have a PC. So I really don't see this any reason to try to replace my PC for it. And so all of the Raspberry Pi 2, the Raspberry Pi 3, the Raspberry Pi 4, they are all going back into Silicon Mountain, my scrapyard. Okay, they are going into my scrapyard. Now I am going to make an exception, and that exception is that I do find that there is and can be a place for the Raspberry Pi Zero. Okay, what do I like about the Raspberry Pi Zero? I like that the Raspberry Pi Zero, and you know what is starting to really bug me, which I really feel like I need to fix if I can. I need to fix, if I can, my focus. So give me just a second, because I can't stand this is not focused. Okay, let me see if I can get that manually focused. Okay, that looks good. So I'll just do a little manual focus there. Okay, so why am I going to include the Raspberry Pi Zero in my list of boards that I'm actually going to work with? Because I love it that it's $5 for the board, or if you want built-in Wi-Fi, it's $10. It's something that you can put a LiPo battery and a battery management board, and you can still make something that will fit in your pocket. You can like 3D print a little case. You could have a little camera that you could put in your pocket and walk around and live stream. There's just all types of things you can do when you get something that is this small and is this cheap and is this easy to use. And so I do kind of keep the Raspberry Pi Zero as something that I want to keep as part of my active repertoire. All right. I guess if we're talking about single board computers, we also need to talk about the BeagleBone Black. And I will tell you, the BeagleBone Black is kind of like it's very similar to the Raspberry Pi. Hey, Chico, we had a super chat there. Wow, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Ring the bell for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Okay, so the BeagleBone Black, I love the board. I love how well it's made. I just love the look and feel of it. And also, kind of like the BeagleBone Black did some things that you can't do on a Raspberry Pi. Like, I believe that it has the ability to do analog read, so you can directly read an analog voltage on it, which I believe the Raspberry Pi is not able to do. And so I love the BeagleBone Black, and I did a series of tutorials on it. But the problem is, there was never any real momentum to develop behind that platform. That, yeah, it's a great platform, but people weren't using it. People weren't developing on it. So if you tried to use it, what you ended up doing is you ended up trying to just see if you could get lucky and maybe one of the Raspberry Pi libraries would run on the BeagleBone Black. And so I love the board, but there was never really an active user base in my mind that developed around it. And so what it is going back to Silicon Mountain, our scrapyard. And so what I like is I am going to keep the Jetson Nano. I'm going to keep the Raspberry Pi Zero. And then I think after that, really, what you need to do is you need to move up to one of these Jetson boards. Now, I am not going to actually like try to choose between sort of like, I think the three that really have the momentum and the three exciting ones and the three that are where things are really going would be, of course, the Jetson Nano, the original Jetson Nano. Then I showed you over here the Jetson Xavier. And then we have the new Jetson Nano 2G. Okay, you need one of those. Now, how do you choose which one to get? Well, kind of get the one you can afford. So I know a lot of you guys out there that watch my channel are old coots that are just sitting around counting your money trying to figure out what to buy with it. So you guys that are old coots that are just rolling in the money, man, get the Jetson Xavier NX. Why not? I mean, it is just so much fun. It's kind of like you could get a Volkswagen or you could get a Ferrari. Get the Ferrari, okay? Because the Jetson Xavier, it is really cool to do facial recognition at like 20 frames a second. You know, that is really exciting. So you old guys having trouble figuring out how to spend your money, get the Jetson Xavier, all right? You guys with more modest resources, go ahead and get or continue to get the Jetson Nano, all right? Because there are a couple of advantages of the Jetson Nano over the Jetson Nano 2G, and maybe I'll talk about that in just a minute because I think that is an interesting distinction that we need to make. Now, and then those of you who are really strapped for resources, get a Nano, get the Nano 2G. Okay, because all those lessons that I did, almost everything you would be able to do on the Jetson Nano 2G. Okay, so almost all those lessons you're going to be able to do. So then the question that probably we should answer is, what is the difference between the Jetson Nano at $99 and the Jetson Nano 2G at the Jetson Nano 2G at $59. What do you give up? So we should probably talk about that a little bit. I think I will come back up here full screen, and maybe that would be the best way for you to see what I am doing. Okay, so the first thing that you'll notice when you look at these is that you have fewer USB ports with the Jetson Nano the Jetson Nano 2G. It looks like we've got 2 USBs compared to 4 USBs on the normal Jetson Nano, the original Jetson Nano. Hey man, more USBs is better, right? I mean, you really would like more USBs. Now, can you do what you need to do on 2? Yes. The first thing that you need to do is you need to have a wireless mouse and keyboard that use the same dongle, because you do sort of need a keyboard, so you would put a wireless dongle there that would allow you to have a keyboard and a mouse. So you've got that, okay? Then, or am I lying? Maybe there's 3. Perhaps there are 3. Let me look at that. I should know that, but it looks like maybe there are 3. Okay, so there are 3 USBs instead of 4. I do believe 3 instead of 4. What do you think? Those look like 3 USBs instead of 4. All right, so you could use 1 USB for a dongle to do your keyboard and mouse. The second USB you could use for a USB memory stick. So you could put a memory stick, right? So that you don't have to put everything on the SD card. You could use an external memory stick. And then the third one you are going to need to use for your Wi-Fi. Okay. And what comes with the new Jetson Nano 2G, a little Wi-Fi dongle with a cable. So it looks like you've got a little extension cable, and then you have the little Wi-Fi dongle. All right, so what's the good news is out of the box for $59 you have Wi-Fi. That's good. If I were going to give a very, very small criticism or something that I don't love quite that much about the new Jetson Nano, I really wish that you had the little slot on the back so that you could put one of those Wi-Fi cards in there, because to me it's just so much neater to have the Wi-Fi either built in or integrated onto the back. And so my one little complaint about this is I would have much rather had it built in or mounted on the back than a dongle, because I hate dongles because they it's always like they use one of your USBs and they're just sort of like a doofus thing hanging out there. So that would be my one slight little gripe about this. But again, those are the trade-offs when you're paying when you're just paying $59 for one. Okay, what also looks to be different is it looks like that we are going to have one HDMI out instead of 2 HDMI out. So it looks like that with this new Jetson Nano board, we'll be able to hook up one screen to it. That's no problem at all to me, because I don't use this as a desktop computer. I don't need multiple screens. In fact, most of the time when I use this, I'll probably be puttying into it or operating headless and coming in through SSH. So the fact that this has one instead of 2 HDMI ports out, no problem at all. The fact that it has 3 USB ports instead of 4, no problem at all. Okay, that does not bother me at all. Then the other big difference is this has 2 gigabytes compared to 4 gigabytes of memory for the original Jetson Nano. And what I will say is more memory is always better, but you can do a whole lot on 2 gigabytes. And if you look at most of those lessons that I've done, of those 62 lessons that I've done on the Jetson Nano, you could do almost all of them on this new board. And so that is really really pretty amazing. And so what I'm going to say is that my lineup of single board computers, I'm going to kill this little thing with the servos, because the servos get unhappy when they don't see a pin. Okay, so I'm going to try to come over here. My lineup of single board computers is going to be, I am personally going to continue to work. I'm going to continue to work with the Arduino Nano. I'm going to continue to keep in my repertoire the Raspberry Pi Zero. I'm getting rid of the Pi 2s, the Pi 3s, and the Pi 4s. And if you want to get my attention back on the Raspberry Pi, you need to do something big like put a GPU on there. And then for my really exciting projects, I will be using a Jetson Nano. Now, which one do you use? Well, I have a Jetson Xavier, so I'm going to be using it just because I can. But if you can't do that, you can use the original Jetson Nano, and if you can't afford that, get the new Jetson Nano 2G. And so that's kind of the landscape that I see moving forward. Those are the boards that I'm interested in. Those are the boards that I will continue to try to work on. Those are the boards that I will continue to provide exceptional educational content around. Okay, so let's see. The Jetson is downgraded to be more interested for less money, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't call this a downgrade. I would call it something that widens the user base, because artificial intelligence, embedded edge artificial intelligence, it just became accessible to a lot more people. So I don't look at it as a downgrade. Hey, Dan, we got a super chat. Thanks, really appreciate it. I don't really view it as a downgrade. I view it as an expansion of the customer base. Okay, let's see. Hey, Opal, it's always good to have you. Opal's one of our regulars, probably one of our oldest subscribers. I don't mean that Opal is old, but he's one of our most long-standing subscribers. Great to have him. I think I'll buy the big brother of the Nano. Yeah, Han, if you can afford the Jetson Xavier NX, but I do like the Jetson platform, the Jetson platform. I don't remember. NVIDIA has those other things that run on Jetpack. I think there's the Xavier AGX or something like that. I like the Jetson platform. So what I would get is I would get the Jetson Xavier if you have the the resources for it. Why would you not use one of the USB ports for SSD and fix the BIOS to boot from that? Okay, Paul, the last time I looked, at least I'm not smart enough to boot from the SSD with completely boot from it. Like the last time I tried, you still had to have the SD card in it. And so I'm not interested in doing that until I can boot from a solid state drive without having to have the SD card in it. Because to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of booting from a USB SSD solid state drive if you still have to have the memory card in there. Okay, also the thing that's really cool, like one of the cool things about the Jetson Xavier NX is you can put the SSD right in the back. You don't have to use one of those. So if you really want to do something like the hot potato type of thing, is get the Jetson Xavier NX with an SSD card in the back. Now, people smarter than I might already, maybe they figured it out since I looked at it, but the last time I looked in it, there was not a way, or at least not a straightforward way, to boot directly from an SSD without going through the SD card first. Okay, Athrayam M wants me to say your name. Athrayam N, welcome. There you go. I said your name, so welcome. It's glad having you guys. Okay, let's see some other comments that we have here. I want to make Jetson Nano as my home security. Yeah, I'll tell you, I've got some ideas for Jetson Nano and home security that I probably shouldn't talk about on the internet, but the Jetson Nano will be part of my security system in Africa. You guys know I'm in the middle of moving to Africa right now, and kind of in between homes right now as I'm making my move to Africa. And the Jetson Nanos will be a core part of my security, because basically you're living in an area where you don't have firemen and hospitals and police and all of that, so you've got to kind of think about your own security. And so something like an AI system, I think, opens up some very exciting capabilities. Okay, you can probably save a USB port by using Bluetooth mouse and keyboard. Hey, Ohio, that's a great idea. Simon Hillier, welcome. Yeah, okay. Can AGX Xavier replace a computer? Well, what I know is that if you boot the Jetson Xavier up, Man, I really at that point don't know why you would need a desktop computer. I mean, I hate Windows so bad. You have no idea how bad I hate Windows. It's kind of like no matter how fast Intel makes a microprocessor, Microsoft is going to figure out some way to bring it to its knees. I had the first like PC back in 1995. It was like Windows 95. It took 5 minutes to boot. I now have a super duper state-of-the-art whatever Intel microprocessor high-end computer, and guess what? It takes 5 minutes to boot. No matter how fast they make the microprocessor, Windows figures out a way to make it run slow. So I hate Windows. So why don't I just throw out Windows and go to Linux and move past Windows? Right now, to do these broadcasts, I am using Wirecast, and Wirecast does not run on Linux. Now, I know there's like Open Broadcast Software, OBS, which is a really neat Linux system, but it doesn't quite have the features that Wirecast has. So Wirecast is what is keeping me on Windows. Can we say the Jetson Nano is the new evolution for the Raspberry Pi? Yeah, I mean, I see the future is the Jetson Nano, the past was the Raspberry Pi. And I kind of said this as a question, but I really do think that the Jetson Nano could be a Pi killer, because I continue to imagine that, I mean, what NVIDIA wants to do, I think what they want to do is they want a wider and wider user base, and therefore they are going to be figuring out ways to lower the cost of the entry-level edge AI computing system. And so I think you're going to see even cheaper prices. And so what I would imagine NVIDIA is doing is pushing the edge as far as state-of-the-art, like how fast can you make something go on a single board computer? And then on the other end, how cheap can you make a single board supercomputer? And so you're going to have something that's getting cheaper and cheaper, and then you're going to have an expensive one that's getting faster and faster. That is what I would perceive that they are probably doing. Can you play games on Linux? You can, but you're not allowed to, because you just waste your time. Don't waste your time playing computer games. Be a developer, not a consumer, would be my input. Okay, looks like Ohio is giving people some time out. So Ohio Teen Tech, thanks. Thanks for keeping it clean out there, keeping it family friendly. You'd need a USB port for the Bluetooth dongle. Yes, I think that's right. The Xavier, I believe, has like built-in Bluetooth, or that card in the back gives you Bluetooth. So that's also why I like that little slot in the back for something that you can put in that gives you Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Okay, what Intel giveth, Microsoft taketh away. Okay, David, I am going to ring the bell for you for incredible wisdom. I'm going to use that someday. What Intel giveth, Microsoft taketh away. I love that. King AMI, can I play Minecraft on Linux? Why would you want to play games when you could actually be doing something useful with your time? That's like what I like to do, man. I'm a doer. I'm either going to be building something, making something, inventing something, designing something, fixing something, growing something, cooking something. I'm going to be doing things. I'm not going to just be sitting and mesmerized in this imaginary world. You see, I want to be developing, not consuming. And that's why I don't play games. Will you still do the JetBot project? I feel horrible about the JetBot project. I need to do that. Like I say, I'm in between homes right now. You could say I'm homeless. I'm in between homes right now. And so it's really hard for me to start a new series right now, as I am in the middle of a big move to Africa. Okay, but I do have my JetBot. I do intend on doing that. If I can get a little time off here, I will start the JetBot project. Okay. Paul made me the mod. Yeah, I made Ohio Tech the moderator because he is one of our old-time listeners. And sometimes, like when I'm talking, if I'm doing a premiere, I will do the moderation. But if I'm doing a live stream, sometimes someone gets on there and starts being a little bit of a nuisance. So I need someone to watch the chat line as I am doing the talking. Can you tell us what background? How did you get started? Okay, I have a bachelor's degree from University of Texas in electrical engineering. I graduated #1 in my class. I went on to Stanford and I got a master's degree in engineering, electrical engineering, with an emphasis in solid state physics. And then from there, I was working at the national laboratories on national security I won't say problems, matters of incredible importance as far as national security goes. It's sort of like when there were problems that no one else in the world could solve, they would come to us to solve them in the area of national security and intelligence. I did that for 17 years, and then I started my own Silicon Valley startup company on nanotechnology. I did that for 7 years. I sold things and decided to retire and relax after that. And then I get to kind of do what I want. Where in Africa are you moving to? I'm being a little bit not specific on where I will be in Africa, just because I'm so visible and transparent in all the videos I make. I just want to make sure that people wouldn't decide to come and pay me a visit in Africa, so I don't say exactly where I am. What about audio input and output on the Jetson Nano? Well, the easiest way to do audio input and output, I think, is through a USB. Logitech has a USB microphone and headset. It works like a charm. And so if you're interested in input and output, do it through the USB. Okay, don't forget to take your firearms. You know what? Firearms are not allowed in Africa, so we're going to have to defend ourselves without firearms. I was always a big firearm guy. Like, I was a gun collector, you know, like just because they're elegant workmanship. You know, just I love to appreciate the engineering, the fine precision engineering in a fine firearm. So I was a firearm collector. But in preparation to my move for Africa, I did indeed sell my firearms, except the bare minimum that are needed while I am here. Okay, what was the coolest project that you ever worked on? I actually made the world's smallest steam engine, and it actually worked. And the world's smallest steam engine was smaller than a red blood cell, and it actually had a piston, a cylinder, a boiler, water, and it would just sit and run, smaller than a red blood cell. I think that was the coolest thing that I ever did. And I have a lot of the original patents in the area of nanotechnology. Your Arduino tutorials kick me off into the area of microcontroller programming. Well, good. You know what? I really hope that those Arduinos, I think that you could be a truck driver, or you could be a mechanic, or you could be any type of person, and you could come in and you could sit down and you could learn microprocessors from my Arduino lessons. By the way, I have a huge respect for mechanics and truck drivers and plumbers and stuff. It's just their expertise is with their hands, and they haven't done things like take college classes on programming. But you can just take a smart guy that's willing to work, and he can learn microprocessors. What I hope we can do with these Jetson Nano lessons, these AI lessons, is the guy that finishes the Arduinos should be able to come in and learn artificial intelligence. At least that's what I would like. Any advice about changing other engineer course to electronic engineer, because just found man, I think electrical engineering is the way to go because a lot of kids are interested in cars. Oh, I want to be a mechanical engineer, or they're interested in airplanes. I want to be an aerospace engineer. I'll tell you, there are more electrical engineers working on an aircraft than there are aerospace engineers. And so if you're an electrical engineer, that is your ticket into any type of field that you want to be in, because they all need electrical engineers. And so you can work on anything that you want to. I worked on thermonuclear warheads. I worked on submarines. I worked on the space shuttle. I actually got to go on the launch pad immediately before a launch and instrument the shuttle with some stuff. I've been in the control room for launches that NASA did. And so I've been in the coolest places and worked on the coolest things. And my ticket in was my electrical engineering expertise. Okay, not anything yet on autonomous robots. Haven't done that. Do you have the Guinness World Record for the smallest steam engine? I don't think we actually turned it into Guinness World Record, but it got kind of like worldwide notoriety. I mean, it was featured in, it was on the cover of, the London Times, and, all the major newspapers covered this stuff. I was in Wired magazine, and it was on CNN and all that sort of stuff. So back in the day, it was kind of, my stuff was pretty famous. Okay, yeah, Thaddeus. The way you make things that small is with lithography, but instead of defining very small transistors, you're defining very small mechanical elements. But if you can etch something in polysilicon, just etch it out with lithography and make something that is mechanical as opposed to electrical. So that's how we did it. Hey, Aviel says that my videos helped him in college. That's great. Have I been to Area 51? I can neither confirm nor deny whether I've been there. I'll say I've been to the coolest, most secret places in the world that, I had like the highest level security clearances, like security clearances that you've never even heard of, I had. And so I've seen and been to the most secret places in the world. Hey, yes, there is very good coffee in Africa, as a matter of fact. Let's see, I'll see if I can find something here for you. They're asking me if I'm going to be able to get good coffee in Africa. And yes, I am definitely going to get good coffee in Africa. And if you give me just a second, maybe perhaps I can show you something cool here. I think I can. Are you ready? Are you ready to see something cool? Let's see if I come over here to this view. Okay, this is my place in Africa, and what you can see is this is my coffee plant. So I have a little coffee plantation I've put on the edge of my farm, and my coffee plants are about 1.5 feet high. And in the next year, I do think that in the next year I should be enjoying my own coffee that I am growing, and I know how to roast coffee, so I should be producing my own coffee without too much, but without having to wait too much longer. Can we connect a Jetson Nano to a laptop? I guess you could. Yeah, I mean, you could do it you could SSH in. That'd be no problem. Okay, let's see. Hello, sir, from Cameroon. Hey, Cameroon, that is great. Following you on my hospital bed. Hey, Maba, why are you on a hospital bed? What is the problem? Have you fell into some sort of misfortune? Let us know what's going on. I know that you're one of our old timers as well. How can we stimulate kids to be enthusiastic for the Jetson Nano? Schools are not very interested. You know what? The problem with schools is, and I'm in the public school system, but they have isolated themselves from the world, and they've stovepiped everything. That if you're a teacher, the way you do things is the school way. So you find someone to sell you a package that teaches you how to teach someone how to build a website the school way. Everything is like they're just these iron bars around how things are done in school. And so what I don't know, this is what perplexes me. My Arduino series are pretty good, even though I do say so myself. You can take a kid in 7th grade and he can learn microprocessors. And by the time he graduates high school, he can be, like we send microprocessors, we send instrument packages to space. That's what we do. I'll talk about that another day, but we send high altitude balloons to over 130,000 feet, and we stream live data back from those packages. And these are designed, flown, and executed by high school students because we start them in 7th grade on the Arduino. Now this is the crazy thing. Why isn't every school doing it? Because my lessons are free. My lessons are free from 7th grade to seniors in high school. They're free. Well, why isn't every high school in the nation that doesn't have a master's level electrical engineer that was a corporate executive as a teacher, why aren't they using those lessons? Because they're free. And we only do things that we pay for through our teacher catalog. It's crazy. But schools aren't using my stuff even though they're free, and they work because they're not part of this prison system known as the public school system. I digress. Now I love the school I work at. They let me do whatever I want. So it's really good. But I'm just talking about in general The public school system is incredibly broken. Let's see. I'd like to buy that coffee when the time comes. Okay, we'll start an import-export business on coffee when I get it. Okay, thank you for the nice word, Nathan. Okay, I am sick and admitted at the hospital suffering from discomfort. Oh, so Maba has a back problem. I'm sorry. I know that hurts, and so we'll just wish you the best and hope that you'll get out of there soon and get to feeling better. Okay, cool high school project. Those kids are going places. They really are. And I mean, my students are going out and they're getting the best high-tech jobs in the world. And yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to boast about myself, but yeah, I'm kind of like a good teacher and I know a lot and I can launch those kids. Okay, and not everyone in the public school system is going to know what I know. But darn it, I've got free videos. Why don't you just use them? All you got to do is get up there and press play, and the kids can figure out how to do this. These Arduino starter kits, they're $30. That's less than a high school. Oops, we just had a crash. Our camera crashed into Silicon Mountain. Okay, $30, that's cheaper than a textbook. So I ask you, why is every public school in the United States not doing this? I do not know, but all I can say is the public school system is very much broken. Okay, Sepwin's got to go. Hey, yeah, I don't know, how long have we been on here? I'm trying to see. We have been on for a while. Okay, but let's answer a few more questions. Hi, Paul. Just wanted to say thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. Sinister. Okay, did the Raspberry Pi Fusion. Okay, did a lot of great stuff. Okay, that's good. Okay, King AMK. Yep. We hope you all get better. Hello from Pennsylvania. Okay, Jetson Nano 2G is the better value. It really is. Okay, Thaddeus is homeschooling his kids. Okay, I'll be honest. We homeschooled our daughter from kindergarten through 12th grade. Everybody said it's not going to work. She's not going to be able to be in the real world. She went to college and she started college like at 15 years old. She finished top of her class. She got her RN license on the first try. I mean, she just flew. She had no problem being extremely successful in the real world. So you guys stop poo-pooing homeschooling. It really is a very viable option. And especially when you look at the online resources, things like the Khan Academy and things like my high-tech lessons, there is incredible resources. And so I am a big fan of homeschooling. Okay. I'm not watching this live. I'm about halfway behind if you want to teach. Hey, we got another super chat. Thanks a lot, Dan. That is really great. Okay. Love your Arduino series. Thank you. Okay, that is great. Okay, guys, how long have we been on here? I wonder how long we have been on. I should be able to see this on my control system, but I cannot for some reason see how long we have been on. But it's probably we have been on long enough that we need to begin to wrap this thing up so that you always tune in and I always leave you wanting more. Okay, what is the bottom line? The bottom line is there is a new affordable Jetson Nano, the Jetson Nano 2G. It is available for $59. When they get them up on Amazon, I will put a link in the description down below, and you can hop over there and get your Jetson Nano 2G. And what I do hope to do is, again, right now I'm a little bit between homes. I hope to get things kind of stabilized really quickly and be able to start making some more great lessons. In the meantime, what I'd like to do, if you guys are interested, I'd like to try to do a live stream once a week and just stay in touch with you guys, because I know that we've kind of become friends over the years, and so what I'd like to do is try to keep the live streams coming, and it seems like you guys are kind of interested. Hey, Mystic Dreamer, haven't heard from you in a long time. Great. One of our old times, and one of the guys I would consider a friend, and he says we've been at it for 62 minutes. And so what would probably be a good thing would be for us to wrap it up at this time. So Really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. Think about sharing it on social media. Think about subscribing to the channel. Also, as always, want to thank you guys that are helping me out at Patreon. It is your encouragement on Patreon that keeps this great content coming. So at this time, I will let you guys go. Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.